to address these challenges, I'd like to talk about the ingredient keys that we have defined as what's important for you to unlock your success as a raw materials supplier. As you'll see here, these keys are like cogs in a machine. They're all interrelated, they're all linked, and they each work together and really take constant focus on your part. This, in a nutshell, is how we at LaunchNatural have mapped out what's necessary for building a successful raw materials business. And you'll see we've defined three specifics: connection, product focus, and professional infrastructure. So let's talk a little bit more about each of these. So the last key is the professional infrastructure component. Sadly, this is the one that probably gets the least attention and one that really can do a lot of damage to your reputation. The first item, corporate appearance, is another that should be a no-brainer. Make sure you have nice stationery, a professional company or product logo, and a brochure or marketing collateral that tells your story. Check your website and make sure there are no typos, my pet peeve as a former magazine editor, and make sure all the links work. Your technical documents should be clean and well written, and if you are reselling from a supply partner, please don't just photocopy their spec and put it on a page with your logo at the top. Another thing we teach at LaunchNatural is how to position your company as outside in, marketing from the customer's perspective rather than your own. So think about that as you define the face you're showing to your potential audience. Just real quick, I mentioned specs. Obviously, you should make sure you have one. This is the first thing other than pricing that potential customers are going to ask for. And if you have to say, well, I don't have it ready yet, it's a sure sign that you're not ready to do business. Speaking of business, make it easy for your customers. Robert tells a good story about the importance of this when he was working with a small organic ingredients supplier and wanted to sell to a large food company. Again, we'll use Kraft. His goal as the small guy was not to have Kraft have to make any adjustments in their expectations, but to make sure that his company's systems were as easy to work with as the big guys. So part of this has to do with the technology you have in place. Can customers order samples on your website? Can they download specs? How easy is it for them to get an allergen statement or your USDA organic seal? And if and when they do ask for samples, do you ship them quickly? I'm still waiting for samples I requested a year ago for a formula a client was working on. Okay, I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding that I never received the samples, despite following up more than once. Needless to say, this isn't a company I'm likely to call again, and this is a pretty small industry for these type of stories to be floating around for others to hear. This speaks to processes and SOPs that you need to have in place. LaunchNatural has a toolbox that can provide our clients all they need to develop SOPs, recruiting and hiring practices, employee handbooks, everything you need to run a successful organization. Okay, so systems is one part of the ease of business component. The other has to do with people. Customer service, friendly, live people who can answer your customer's question or who will find someone who can make or break an up-and-coming company. The relationship between suppliers and manufacturers can be surprisingly contentious. Customers ask a lot of questions, sometimes asking for way more paperwork than small companies feel like they have time to generate. But it's part of the job, and if you can make it easier for the customer to deal with you, that's half the battle toward building a long-term relationship. The truth is, people like to work with people they like. And in many cases, you may not be selling a totally unique ingredient that they can't get anywhere else. So you might as well help build the other parts of your business, like customer service, that make dealing with you more pleasant than your competitors. A great example is Apple computers. Robert and I were talking about this earlier today. We both have a Mac, and we're both so happy about it. They just make everything so much easier for their customer. It helps that they have great products, but if you do have a problem, they help you solve it quickly, relatively painlessly. It's just something that the competition does not live up to at all. And if you can be the equivalent of that in the raw material space, you really have it made. One last point here is about understanding your customers' positioning and the space they are trying to occupy. If you know they're all about service or have a strong emphasis on quality or they're really concerned about price, you'll know how to talk to them in a way that matches up with what their core values are. Last but not least, in today's GMP world, you cannot underestimate the importance of quality control and quality assurance. You are responsible for your sourcing partner's quality or lack thereof, and you can bet your customers are going to expect you to be responsible for what goes into their final product. Transparency is linked to this, and we refer back to the Kraft example. A company like Kraft is going to demand transparency from its supplier, and this comes as a big shock to a lot of small companies. Can the customer go online and find documentation, track shipments, or see test results? This all offers great transparency and can really put you many steps ahead of the average raw material supplier who just doesn't have this level of technological sophistication. You don't always need a huge budget or major overhead to be successful at this. It comes to putting systems into place that work for everyone and making sure everyone in your organization understands how they work. And there you have it, a quick look at what you need to thrive in the raw material segment of today's natural products business. By focusing on these keys, you can really reap the benefits from differentiating your supply business in a crowded market to appealing to a higher quality customer who really is going to appreciate the steps you've taken. You'll also be able to manage and capitalize on your growth strategy to benefit in terms of increased revenue and profit.